Hi, I'm Ada and I'm going to give you a quick overview of how Defog works. So to get started, the first thing you want to do is go to docs.defog.ai and follow the instructions on a quick start guide to just launch Defog locally, and you'll do this via this Defog desktop app that you're seeing over here. And once you've done that, this is what you'll see. Essentially, the first thing we want to do is connect your database to Defog. And you're going to enter all the database credentials. All of this stays locally. None of this is getting sent externally. And then what Defog does is essentially extract the metadata from your database. Defog is not getting access to the actual underlying data in your database at any point. It's only looking at these table names, column names, data type, and if available, a description of what is. In this case, this is a database for a marketplace for buying and selling concert tickets. So you've got a buyer table, a seller table, event categories, event listings, sales transactions, venues, things like that. And over here, what I've gone ahead and done is actually given it some descriptions. For example, I know that in my database, the states are denoted as abbreviations rather than the full form. So California is abbreviated as CA. And I want to let Defog know of this so that if a user asks, how many, sellers do we have in California, it knows to map that onto the right state. So I've just specified that in the description over here for, whichever tables I have this state. I'm not going to give it a description for each of the columns over here because these column names are, fairly semantically meaningful. It's quite easy to understand what they contain. But if you do have column names that are hard for someone without specific knowledge of your database to understand, something very vague like variable 1, 2, 3, 4, then you do want to go ahead and give it some description of what is in that column, because otherwise Defog will have no idea of what is actually contained in that column. And so once we've done that, go ahead and save your changes, and let's start querying Defog. So the first question I'm going to ask is just which are the most popular categories of events? It's a fairly easy question. It returned that answer very, very quickly. You can see the answer as a table over here. You can see it plotted over here, and you can switch over to this tab to see the actual code that was generated. Now let's just sort of ask a slightly harder question. What percentage of revenue is from the top quartile of users, let's say. So we'll see what it returns over here. It's telling me at 64%, and this is again the code that it generated to answer this question. All of this is powered by SQL Coder, which is a model that we have developed. The latest version is SQL Coder Pro, which you can see in the benchmarks over here is far ahead of any of the other models available in the market right now for these particular text to SQL tasks. So now I've shown you these examples where it's behaving sort of exactly perfectly. It's exactly giving us exactly the answers that we want. But what happens when Defog doesn't quite behave in the way that we want it to? Either it's getting answers slightly wrong, or you want to tweak certain ways in which it's presenting the results, perhaps. I'm going to ask a very vague question: who are the top users? In this case, it doesn't quite know what we mean by users, because if we go back to the metadata that we gave it, we've got buyers, sellers, and things like that, and it's like, what do we mean by users? So I'm just going to go to this align model page over here, and I'm going to give it an instruction in this first sort of glossary section over here. You can essentially give it instructions on how you want it to behave in general. So I'm going to tell it that buyers may also be referred to as users or visitors. And this is just the internal language that we have in our organization, and we want to let Defog know of that. So once we've gone and updated that, we can ask that question again. It should show us the right result this time. So we can see over here, it's showing us the actual sort of users. I'm going to ask a slightly different question, but similar question. I'm going to ask who are the top sellers now, and we'll see what we get. Okay, so it's showing me the sellers based on the number of sales, and maybe in my organization, when I ask this question, I always want to get the answer based on the actual revenue that was generated, not just the total number of tickets that were sold in this case. So I'm going to go back and actually show you a different way of aligning the model. So I'm going to give it a thumbs down. I'm going to tell it that this feedback. So when asked about top events, buyers or sellers, you should give me the answer based on total revenue, not the number of tickets. So I'm going to go ahead and submit this feedback. And over here, I can go to the view feedback model. And I can see over here that I've given it this sort of negative feedback on this question. Here's the feedback text that I gave it just now. And I'm getting the recommendation to improve the model using feedback. So I'm clicking on that, and what this is doing over here is essentially generating a new set of instructions to incorporate the feedback that I just gave it, and then I can test whether this is working or not. This does take a few seconds, so while this is happening, I'm going to actually just go ahead and go back to this glossary and just type in that feedback that I gave it, and I'm just going to update the glossary over here. But you can also do the same thing via the view feedback model if you don't want to sort of come up with these instructions yourself. Defog will go ahead and suggest what those instructions are for you. And so I've just gone ahead and updated that. And then the third way of aligning the model is also, if it's getting answers correct, you want to reinforce that as well. So I'm going to go back to this first question, which I asked, which was correct. I'm going to give it a thumbs up over here. And so it's going to note that feedback as good feedback over here, and it's going to give me the suggestion to actually add it to golden queries. And I'm going to go ahead and click that, and golden queries are essentially, and you can go ahead and view the golden queries in this align model page over here as well if you just scroll down. And golden queries are essentially pairs of questions and the corresponding SQL query that are correct. And sort of this just helps Defog to learn more about how your database is structured and how it should answer certain questions, and just sort of reinforcing this is the correct query for this particular question. And so that's how you can essentially align Defog's behavior more closely to what you need from it. And so as you continue using Defog, you're going to sort of build up the set of glossary, you're going to build up the set of golden queries as well as this feedback over here. And so we also developed this check readiness tool, where essentially you can see how well you've configured Defog across all of these different sort of tools that we've provided. So the first thing you can do is check golden queries validity. So essentially it's going to check that none of the golden queries you've given it are invalid, and they can actually all execute against the schema that we've provided Defog with. In this case, we just have one, and it's a valid query. You can also check the consistency of instructions. This is particularly useful if you have multiple people giving instructions, and someone might inadvertently just give it. Two people might inadvertently give the model contradictory instructions. So over here, I'm just like to show you how that works. I'm going to just paste in two contradictory set of instructions. Over here, we're saying that if I ask for total users, give me a total count, and over here I'm saying give me the number of unique users. So I'm going to update these instructions, and I'm going to go back to check readiness. I'm going to check the consistency of the instructions over here. And yeah, you can see over here that it's telling me that there's some inconsistencies. And so then you can go back and correct these inconsistencies. And the third tool that we have over here is to check for the coverage of the golden queries. In this case, it's not, what it's basically telling me is that the other golden queries I've provided, do they sort of cover a significant portion of the schema and tables for which I've given Defog metadata. So we essentially want to eventually get to a place over time where the golden queries are fairly representative of the entire schema that you've given it. and you'll sort of see a score of how you're performing against that over here as well. And yeah, so there you go. That's Defog. You can, of course, connect your data in a very privacy friendly way, query that data as well. But then importantly, we have all of these tools as well to actually, for you to align its behavior, modify its behavior, in case you're running into any areas where it's not quite behaving the way you want it to. And yeah, that's all for me. Thank you so much for watching.